Alright everyone, we start off today talking about another asinine promise by Joe Biden, one that, by the way, is a throwaway to liberal voters. It's an attempt to invigorate the further left, especially younger voters that haven't had anything positive to look at from the Democratic Party in a year and a half. It's one of the pledges that he made when he was in the primaries, prior to being, and even in the general, when he was sparring with Trump. We're going to ban them evil assault-style weapons. They generally use assault-style now, because it was identified by them that using the term assault weapon doesn't apply to the weapons that they want to ban, and they were getting steamrolled in debates by people who understand the Second Amendment. If it were to pass, it would be, by the way, shot down. It would not stand up to scrutiny under Bruin, etc. But it's a throwaway. Biden is telling Democratic voters, if we retain the House, which will not happen, it is statistically impossible at this point, and if we hold the Senate and get enough votes there, because of course he's still got a filibuster. He says, well, we need 2 more votes in the Senate to end the filibuster so we can do whatever we want. You might very well get those. Of course, the Senate was always a 50-50 proposition. I'm still laughing my ass off at people saying there's a swing towards the Democrats. They're gaining momentum because they might take the Senate by more than a split vote. They've always had that possibility. It was already a 50-50 proposition a year ago. I talked about this. I noticed that nobody wants to admit to that fact. Here's several big problems with this particular proposal. The first is that the courts would shoot it down, especially in the wake of Bruin. And I've got a warning for liberal voters. I know you're gung-ho to disarm people and send all the weapons to Ukraine to arm other people because you don't trust your fellow man, but hear me out on this. One of the main predications for the end of Roe v. Wade comes to mind when I look at your constant attempts against guns. And you're already embattled in dozens and dozens of revisited cases after Bruin. Anyway, I have a feeling that 9 out of 10 of them are going to be solved in favor of gun owners. So there won't be mag restrictions. There's not going to be ammo type restrictions and all of these other things. Basically, you're left with red flag and import laws, both of which I personally oppose as well, which may additionally get embattled. Look at the predication for your epic loss on Roe v. Wade and its reduction back to a states' rights issue, and then think good, long, and hard about your love for the NFA at the federal level and other federal gun control. That was predicated upon Dobbs. But people can't see the forest for the trees because Dobbs was predicated as a backlash by several red states to the decisions made by Ralph Northam in Virginia. The Virginia Democrats took an abortion system that was already reasonably liberal. It already, I believe it was first trimester, rape, incest, etc., woman's life in danger. It was pretty normal. They decided to push the issue and say, no, we want to be much more progressive than that. Northam's like, I've got to deliver for my left-wing voters so that I can stay in politics, which obviously didn't happen. I'm going to extend it so that it's unlimited. And what happened is this was seized upon by advocates of ending Roe v. Wade. And they said, well, Roe v. Wade establishes abortion shall remain legal. It doesn't establish any particular lower-level limits on what that legality entails. Some states say 12 weeks, some say 14 weeks. Now Virginia's saying you can abort it in the 3rd trimester when the baby's basically ready to be born. Baby's crowning and you decide to take it out through suction instead of the normal way. And the Republicans said 2 can play at that game. And then Dobbs was born, an 8-week abortion limit, lower than other states had it, the elimination by some states of certain exceptions for their abortion limits, and the left predictably lashed out legally, and therefore you get the Dobbs decision. It goes before SCOTUS. Dobbs gets upheld so that the 8-week ban is legal. And attendant to that, you gave the now conservative-leaning Supreme Court the ability to reconsider Roe v. Wade as the overarching legislation pertinent to the entire issue. That's why Roe v. Wade died. It was self-inflicted by liberals. It was specifically Ralph Northam and the Virginia Democrats that caused the entire thing to happen. Nobody was pushing the issue prior to that. The Republican states were more than happy to let the issue die because they had no real problem ideologically with what was happening. If you think that half of these evangelo turds really give a damn about the issue, you don't understand politics. You are about to embark, assuming that this happens, and there's a 99% chance, thankfully, that it doesn't. You are about to embark upon a doomed campaign to endanger the rights of American citizens to own topically, aesthetically similar to military style, low-grade hunting rifles. To tell the truth, if it's chambered in .223, it is not a heavy caliber. It's not .308, it's not a 50 cal, it's nothing like that. It is a low-powered, the idea of calling them high-powered rifles as well is goddamn hilarious. 5.56 is sort of where having reasonable stopping power begins. You're going to end up forcing a SCOTUS case in the wake of Bruin, of all things, which will cause the conservative Supreme Court, Roberts will probably side with the liberals, who cares, you're going to have them possibly shoot down the NFA. They can reconsider its entire legality. If they punt this issue back to the states, gun control is going to get ripped apart at the state level. Most states will effectively abolish existing gun control. They'll be emboldened by this. Now, I think that's a great possibility. I see nothing particularly wrong with this. You could end up expanding, and under McDonald v. Chicago and Heller versus D.C., the states have hard limitations on their ability to impose gun control, which means that a state could say, you know what, we're going to start manufacturing automatic weapons. Yeah, why not? It's legal. The NFA is gone. It would be very funny if that happened. Of course, that's ironically predicated on the Dems retaining the House. That won't happen. So actually, the Dems, if they had like a blue wave election, they might overstretch and it might be better long term just because of the composition of the Supreme Court. But I have a feeling that Biden's pitch here is not going to go over well during the midterms. What you've just done is you've taken younger left-wing voters, you've invigorated a handful of single-issue voters that still care about the issue. Left-wing younger voters primarily are focusing on economic issues. They want free gibs. They want handouts. You can't really blame them because the boomers wrecked the economy and they don't see a way to shovel themselves out. Some of these people are approaching 25, 30 years old. Hey, I've got 2 degrees and I'm competing with this boomer with a PhD for the burger flipping job. I don't understand what's happening here. I almost don't blame them for this. They care about economic issues. It's the money, stupid, is the name of the game. If you pursue this line, you probably just invigorate more right-leaning voters to hold the line. So people that are like, well, I'm not really that big on board with the Republicans. They're not stopping enough of this shit legislation. Their platform is a bit of a mess. And the Republicans do right now have several major problems, all of which I could explain to them in a half-an-hour goddamn seminar and whip them into shape, but they're not willing to take advice from intelligent individuals who know anything about political strategy. Look at one of their main leaders. It's Mitch McConnell saying, I don't think that we're going to be able to retake the Senate. Turtle Man himself with his deep booming voice there. I don't think that that's going to happen. We need more quality candidates for the Senate. Way to undercut your own party, Mitch. Of course, he's elderly as the sands of times. He doesn't expect to be there much longer anyway. I guess he's having one last hurrah trying to screw some of the MAGA senators that could be incoming. What will happen, I think 2-1, is you'll get people that climb back on board with the albeit slightly weak, anemic Republican leadership in order to hold the line, while getting a handful of deeply anti-gun single-issue voters to climb aboard. Universal pre-K is a better pitch, but again, the biggest problem with that pitch in his latest speech, in his spiel, I mean, you can call it a speech, it's more of an incoherent rant, to tell the truth now, isn't it? Universal pre-K had already been promised during the primaries. Biden was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And it never happened. He never talked about it again. The idea of student loan debt forgiveness wasn't discussed for more than a year. Nancy Pelosi last summer, before this summer that we're in now, had said that Biden didn't even have the authority to do such a thing. That was how they put the issue to rest. Well, he just doesn't have the votes. We would love to do that, but we need legislative approval to do so. Well, I mean, through reconciliation, you do have the votes. I would like to remind the Democrats voters that they're being conned right now. Very interesting to see this bizarre political trajectory. We'll be separately talking about guns as far as the Miami City gun buyback. Oh boy, won't that be a fun one. But Biden is nuts. This presumably is not going to happen simply because they won't have the House, so they won't have the votes to push it forward. Any bill would be DOA. Probably would be DOA in the Senate. I don't expect them to secure enough votes to end the filibuster. They might try, though. It's another reason to vote for the Republican Senate candidates, even if you have to hold your nose, like Mehmet Oz or something like that, I suppose, because that's fairly important. That's about all. Peace out.